Charlotte, North Carolina, we've talked about on here in the last couple of weeks that I feel like that's got to be the focus for Hubert Davis moving forward. That's Jonas Adu, the former Marquette University commit, who decommitted after they moved on from former Duke player Wojo and hired Shaka Smart away from Texas. And, look, he's not a polished player. He's got a lot of room to grow as a player, which ultimately makes him even that much more desirable because you understand with him, if he comes to play for you, you're getting a guy that's going to be around 2 to 3 years that you can develop, that he can grow within the system. But this is a guy that Hubert Davis, Sean May, they've got to take the same approach they spent on Walker Kessler, that same type of effort, that same type of energy into Jonas Adu. Because right now, it's not even about – right now you need depth. You need players. It's not about the talent of the player right now. Right now, you should have players on your roster that can fill out and you can provide some depth. Because if Armando Bacot goes to the NBA draft process and excels and he gets positive feedback that says, hey, you can be a top 15, 20 NBA draft pick, he's not coming back. He's going pro.
Defensive end Keyshawn Silver might be starting game one.
Right. And so that's a situation that they have to work as in the mindset that Armando Bacot's not coming back. He has the option to come back, but he's in the NBA draft. So you have to operate under that opinion. And if this guy who was from the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and look, Carolina fans were wondering, well, why wasn't he already being recruited and offered a scholarship? Well, before this season, Roy Williams didn't think he was having any room for him. He just would have wasted that kid's time trying to recruit him just to put him on the bench and sit there for, who knows, 2 to 3 years before he actually had some minutes available for him to go and play for him. That's why he wasn't recruited. But now that he's decommitted, he's still right there in the neck of your woods. You'd hate to see that guy go somewhere else, let alone in their ACC school, and be a guy that is a productive player that's not in Carolina Blue.
Well, the other thing is you can already see that there is an effort because as has been released by a couple of sources that are posting this on social media, and as of right now, don't know how credible some of these sources are. I've looked at some of these accounts. I don't know how much you can actually believe in some of the stuff that they post. But there are some rumors that they do have a phone call, Zoom call, whatever, with him tomorrow. So if that's the case, they are literally waiting 1 day from Walker Kessler's decision. Not even 24 hours from Walker Kessler's decision to move on and start recruiting Jonas Adu with a pretty significant effort. So that should show you right there that they are going to do what is asked. I would be stunned if he does not have a recruiting offer in the next couple of days. Whenever that call ultimately ends up happening, which you would imagine it is in some capacity, he will have a recruiting offer probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing now is, and I mean, it's really difficult to take this mindset because, one of the ultimate goals as somebody that watches and follows the team and has rooted for the team for a while as well, you want these guys to go on and be successful in the NBA. But selfishly, with what this team is bringing back at this point next year, I think Armando Bacot might be the biggest domino this team has for next season. If he ends up leaving, that puts you in a really, really tough situation. If he comes back, you can get Adu in there, you might be all right. You're not going to be anywhere near as deep as you've been in the past, but that's a roster where even if that's all you get, which I doubt that is, I think there will be some other guys that will come in the portal. I think there are probably, people won't like this fact, but there will probably be a guard or two that will be added in the portal as well. This will just be a guard-heavy lineup. I think you can probably go 8 or 9 deep, and you would probably still be all right. But if Armando Bacot decides to stay in the NBA draft, then you're looking at a scenario where you would end expect Jonas Adu as a 4-star, be committed to you to come in and play well above the expectations that he should have coming out of the gate. You would probably have to get Dontrez Styles to come out and be great as a freshman. And as we've seen over the last couple of years, that is far from guaranteed. So, and I mean, then you're also entering into, a situation where, let's say somehow you then don't get a dude, then I mean, I don't even know where you would go from there. So, I mean, I don't know. It's tricky. I still feel like ultimately Armando Bacot is probably going to return. It feels like that's also the mindset that he's kind of taking into the NBA draft process. It also feels like if they offer a due, if they make a push, they can probably land him as well. But as of right now, nothing is certain.
Armando Bacot's decision was the biggest domino, no matter if Walker Kessler came back or not. He was the team's leading rebounder and leading scorer from a year ago. No matter who, even if Walker Kessler would have returned, you were asking a then second-year sophomore, basically in a lot of people's eyes, he would still be viewed as a freshman because of the way COVID impacted his season, to step up and duplicate that kind of production. So, if Carolina, there's just a lot of questions right now. I know a lot of people are wondering, well, why would you still want to add talent on the wing? Well, for the last 2 years, that's all we've heard complaining. That's what this team's been missing. Carolina's going to be very guard-oriented under Hubert Davis. I don't think there's any way around that. They're going to play a way that Gonzaga, Villanova, Baylor, Kansas now, the way that those teams play, that's going to be Carolina. But as he mentioned that he's going to have a mix of philosophies with Dean Smith and Roy Williams, he understands that having bigs that are effective, that can rebound and control the games are important too. And you got to have at least two of them. Right now, Carolina doesn't have any. One last little mini topic before we do get out of here. We're not going to go really in depth on this, but Walker Kessler's definitely etched his name into the Carolina memory, and it's not been in a good way since he entered the transfer portal. Basically, many people believe that confirmed and pushed Roy Williams to retirement. The question isn't, or I guess the question is this, and we're not going to go in depth, just like a really quick 1 minute or 2 minute answer on this. Is he officially a Carolina villain?
Yes. I would say he is considered a Carolina villain, but as followers of the MCU, where would he rank among villains is not quite in the Thanos range. That would very clearly now go to the humongous douche, Larry Drew II, who I did tweet at after he put out his comments about Roy Williams because he's a moron. So I mean, I think he's up there. I can't put him up there with some of those other guys. Now, I'll say this. Larry Drew makes sense. Rashad McCants makes sense. I was one, and maybe I just didn't follow the team as closely then, so that's the reason why. I don't understand the amount of hate that some people have for the Ware twins being up in that same category. Maybe I missed something. Maybe they have said something in the past about Roy Williams, about the universe, whatever. He's not there. But yeah, I would say he's probably on the UNC villains list in terms of the guys that have played for Carolina and then turned into villains. Yeah, I would agree. He's probably on that list.
Yeah, there is no doubt that he has officially etched his name. He is a Carolina villain. And not saying this as a bad thing, not taking a shot at the kid. But, if Carolina was to schedule a game at Auburn in the next 2 to 3 years, I wouldn't complain. And if Carolina was to go down there and show him up a thing or two about how you play basketball the right way and how we do things here, I wouldn't complain. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get out here a little bit of shorter edition of the podcast. Before we let you go, get you guys to the website, HeelToughBlog.com, where we had you covered with the Walker Kessler news. Go back and read my article about his decision to not come to Carolina and where Carolina goes from here. And, of course, we'll have you covered with all the latest news and nuggets around Carolina basketball moving forward. We will expect more recruiting news, whether it's on the Jonas Adu front or from the transfer portal, as well as staff hirings. We should be expecting that in the coming days. We'll have you covered everything wall-to-wall on HeelToughBlog.com. Same thing for football, as we are getting you ready for the upcoming spring game that will commence on April 24th. Anthony's getting you guys ready with that. And go check out some other scouting reports of potential Carolina recruiting targets. Last, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and ultimately subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on every major podcasting feed, most notably Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts. Give us a like. Review me as the host, review Anthony as the coach, but we want you guys to subscribe. That way you get every podcast right there in your podcast library. Well, with that, I do thank Anthony for coming on such short notice to talk a little Carolina basketball. We want to thank you guys for listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.